Mr. Speaker, the Polish government think Epstein may have been spying for Vladimir Putin. Is the Prime Minister concerned that Peter Mandelson may have been leaking state secrets, not just to a paedophile American financier, but also a Russian agent?
Well, Mr. Speaker, he talks of a public inquiry. Obviously, the focus now has to be on the criminal investigation which has started. As he knows, that investigation will go wherever the evidence leads it, and I've made it absolutely clear that the government will cooperate, as he would expect, with that criminal investigation wherever it goes.
This is my video update on this Wednesday afternoon, February the 4th, coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the Prime Minister of Poland, Mr. Donald Tusk, who announced that he will be initiating an investigation into Russia Epstein links. This is what Donald Tusk announced today. Poland will be initiating the investigation into possible links between Russia and Epstein. Of course, it's going to be Donald Tusk, the devout, dedicated globalist, who will take on the task of trying to find fantasy links between Russia and Epstein. To find links where there are none, perhaps Tusk should take a look at the 2012 email communications between Epstein and his associates, where they discuss regime-changing Putin, and they even have the replacement of Putin picked out and a trip planned for Epstein to meet the Putin replacement, the man who has now fled to Ukraine and works with the Green Goblin. But they were talking about protests and uprisings in Moscow in 2012 and regime-changing Putin because they absolutely hate Putin and they want him gone. That would be a good place for Tusk and his team to start their investigation, but we know they're not going to go there. But it looks like Tusk, he has, in my opinion, he has received his marching orders from the UK establishment. That's who I think is telling Tusk to initiate this fantasy investigation, because the UK establishment is being absolutely pummeled by the Epstein files. The files have already taken down their dear Prince Andrew, who is now nothing more than Prince Mountain Bomb or Mountain View, whatever his name is. And it has also taken down, the Epstein files have taken down perhaps the most powerful establishment, elite politician in the UK, Mr. Mandelson, who was appointed by Keir Starmer to be the ambassador to the United States. He had to resign from that position because of the last Epstein file document release. And in this Epstein file document release, Mandelson has had to resign as, I believe, as a member of the Labour Party, right? But he still is considered a lord, isn't he? Amazing, huh? There are photos of him in this latest Epstein file release in his underwear, speaking to some girl, a redacted image of some woman. And he's in his underwear, his tidy whities. Anyway, it has taken down Andrew. It has taken down Mandelson. We'll see who the Epstein files take down next in the UK. And so the UK is in an absolute freaking panic and a meltdown over the Epstein files. And they are absolutely trying their very best. It's pretty pathetic to see what they're doing, but they're doing it. They're trying their very best to create some sort of Russia-Epstein connection. And the UK media is running story after story about fantasy, fictitious Putin, Epstein, Russia, Epstein connections. And so, in my opinion, I actually think it was the UK that went to Poland. It makes sense. The UK goes to Poland, goes to Tusk, and they tell Tusk initiate this investigation into Russia Epstein links. And right at the time that Tusk makes this announcement, of course you have the UK Telegraph coming out with a story right on cue. They come out with their story with the title, and check out this title. Check out this freaking title from the Telegraph, which proves that they've got nothing. The title reveals how desperate they are and reveals that they have got absolutely nothing with Epstein and Russia. But this is all about distracting away from their own problems with the Epstein docs. Anyway, the title is Epstein was probably a Russian spy, says Tusk. Poland to examine increasingly likely possibility that PDF scandal was co-organized by intelligence services in Moscow. Poland to examine increasingly likely possibility. Increasingly likely possibility. What the F does that even mean? You know what it means? It means that you guys got nothing. That's what it means. It means you guys have got nothing. Increasingly likely possibility. Oh boy. At least the Daily Mail, in all of their bullshit propaganda article that they posted the other day about Epstein being a KGB agent, of course, in that bullshit propaganda article, at least the Daily Mail admitted in the first or in the second paragraph, at least they admitted we have zero evidence, zero documentary evidence. That's what they said. Zero documentary evidence connecting Russia to Epstein. You're going through 3 million documents, right? You're going through 3 million documents, and you say you have zero documentary evidence of a connection between Putin and Epstein, between Russia and Epstein. Of course, the Daily Mail then went on to come up with to spin all kinds of fantasy stories and fantasy tales about Epstein and Russia. But at least the Daily Mail admitted that they have zero. They have no evidence, right? Oh, the Telegraph now using Tusk. So they get Tusk to make the statement, and then they publish the article. The article was already ready. The article was written up. It was ready to go. The UK, they already sent the script to Tusk. They already gave him his orders, and then Tusk made the statement. Reuters also ran with the article of Tusk's announcement. They had that ready as well, and this is the distraction that they are coming up with. Poland to probe possible links between Epstein and Russia, PM Tusk says. Ah, Tusk, you devout globalist. You devout globalist, you, Mr. Tusk. The one-time European Council president who was then given the job of Prime Minister of Poland, finishing second. His party finished second in the 2023 elections, but he was still able to become Prime Minister of Poland. Very loyal, faithful servant of the globalist elite, Mr. Donald Tusk. So anyway, that is the announcement from Tusk. And let's talk about the meeting in Abu Dhabi that took place between Russia and Ukraine. This was the meeting that was supposed to take place on Sunday, but the Green Goblin canceled it. That's what happened. He canceled it. He did not want to have a meeting on Sunday because, as I said in a video update from a couple of days ago, Zelensky is very upset with Witkoff and the United States because they are telling Zelensky to just give up Donetsk, Zelensky, because the U.S. negotiators believe that the only thing standing in their way between a ceasefire and peace in Ukraine is Donetsk. They see it as that simple. Witkoff and Kushner, they think that the only obstacle to getting the deal and giving Trump his Nobel Peace Prize is a Ukraine military withdrawal from Donetsk, and they've even said that they can make the part of Donetsk that the Ukraine military currently holds, which is about 20% of Donetsk, they can turn it into a free economic zone or whatever, but they just want the Ukraine military to pull back from Donetsk, and they're putting some pressure on the Green Goblin, and the Green Goblin is saying no, he doesn't even want to discuss these things, so he put a delay to the Sunday meeting, but they then had the meeting today in Abu Dhabi, and it's performative, as Alexander noted in a video that we published on the Duran. It's all performative. It's theater. Nothing's going to come out of these meetings. What they're really about is discussing the security issue. And when they mean discussing the security issue, they mean discussing the attacks on Putin. That's what they mean when they talk about security. Basically, it's the Russians sitting down with the Ukrainians and the Americans, but Witkoff and Kushner are not there. But the Russians are going to sit down with the Americans, and they're going to say, you guys got to stop trying to assassinate our president, and we need to put up some rules. We need to set some boundaries and some rules, because you guys tried to take out Russian President Vladimir Putin and you failed. And so that's what they mean when they talk about security. And they're going to discuss the territory issue, but it's much more than territory. Lavrov even said in a statement in an interview that he gave the other day that Donbass and Donetsk is just one part of a much more complicated negotiation that needs to take place. And the Russian terms go well beyond just the Ukraine military withdrawing from Donbass. There's all kinds of other issues that need to be discussed. By the way, tomorrow, the New START treaty expires. Tomorrow it expires. And if Trump does nothing to deal with this, to take Putin up on his offer to extend the START treaty at least for another year so that they can negotiate a replacement to the New START treaty, if Trump doesn't do anything, then we're in a very dangerous place, everybody. What the F is Trump doing? What are you doing, Trump? Call up Putin and tell him, okay, let's extend this for one more year. And then let's take the year to negotiate a new START treaty with China as well, because Trump wants China involved, fine. But at least take Putin up on extending the New START treaty, because if this thing expires, we're going to have all kinds of countries going nuclear or wanting to go nuclear. Sweden is talking about going nuclear. Germany's talking about going nuclear. Poland, Donald Tusk. Can you imagine Tusk with a nuclear weapon? Oh my God, God help us. Germany with a nuclear weapon? No thanks. Even Obama posted about this. He said, if Congress doesn't act, the last nuclear arms control treaty between the U.S. and Russia will expire. It would pointlessly wipe out decades of diplomacy and could spark another arms race that makes the world less safe. This piece is worth the read. Obama's right. I don't like having to agree with Obama, but he's right. This thing needs to be extended. I really hope that Trump calls up Putin by tomorrow and says, let's extend it for 1 year. Because if Trump doesn't do that, then he will go down in history as one of the most reckless presidents ever. Because he would have sparked a nuclear arms race. So I really hope that Trump makes the call. Anyway, let's get back to the talks. Well, let's not get back to the talks. Nothing's going to come from the talks. Nothing's going to come from the talks. If anything, the one thing that could come from these talks is that perhaps the United States stops trying to go after Russian leadership. That could be the one thing that comes out of these talks. if I had to take a guess. Anyway, Iran and U.S. talks are supposed to take place on Friday, and Trump is actually pretty confident in his latest statements to the media. It seems that he's very confident that diplomacy is working and there's going to be some sort of a deal. Of course, the Trump administration is one of foreign policy trickery, and he may be saying all of these things about diplomacy and getting to a deal, while what he is actually planning is to attack Iran. But nonetheless, Trump is striking an upbeat tone with regards to the diplomacy that is taking place between Iran and the United States. And so Friday, we're supposed to have talks between the foreign minister of Iran, Arakchi, and Trump's envoy, Witkoff. And they were going to take place in Turkey, but now it seems that Iran would like those talks to be moved to Oman. So that's the update there. We'll see if the United States does agree to move the talks to a new location, to Oman. Politico is reporting that Ukraine, fearing that they're not going to get the security guarantees from the United States, they are working on Plan B, according to Politico, and Plan B is all about creating a steel porcupine. Remember when Ursula van der Pirate, van der Crazy, when she said that Ukraine needs to become a steel porcupine? And it looks like the Zelensky regime is going to do just that. They are talking about building a massive military, manufacturing massive amounts of weapons and missiles, like the Flamingo, which went nowhere. Where did all that money go for the Flamingo? Where did all the money go for the Flamingo? Anyway, Ukraine, according to Politico, is going to look at Plan B if they cannot get security guarantees from the United States of America. And they are going to build the steel porcupine, how Ukraine plans to defend itself after the war. Ukraine's Plan B is to be able to protect itself if Allied security guarantees prove worthless. Yeah, like Russia's going to allow Ukraine to become a steel porcupine, to manufacture weapons and ballistic missiles, and to build a huge, massive military. Yeah, Russia's going to be A-OK with that green goblin. Anyway, that is what Politico is reporting. And Trump was asked about the energy truce that expired on Sunday, and for some weird, strange reason, the collective West media continues to peddle the fake news narrative that this was not an energy truce, but this was a winter truce. That is false. And they continue to push out the fake narrative that this was an indefinite truce. This was going to last forever and ever, indefinitely, for all the winter. This truce was going to last all the winter. And it was a general truce, not an energy truce. It was a winter truce. When they have Trump on record speaking to the media a few days ago, saying this is a 1-week energy truce. That is what the president of the United States said. And the media also claims that it's Putin that called Trump, or that begged Trump for the energy truce, because Russia's running out of missiles and weapons and their military is in tatters. That is also fake and false, because Trump told us that he's the one that called up Putin and contacted Putin and asked Putin, please, can we have a 1-week energy truce? This is what the president of the United States said, and he told it to the media. But the media decided, you know what? It's better to lie about these things than to actually just repeat what Trump is on record telling us. Anyway, he was asked the question by the reporters in the White House about Russia breaking the winter truce, the energy truce, however you want to call it. It was an energy truce, even though they don't want to call it an energy truce. What do you think, Mr. President, about Russia breaking the truce with the massive missile strike that they launched yesterday, 80 plus missiles into Ukraine? And Trump said, you know what? Russia honored the truce.
Yesterday you were talking about how Vladimir Putin had agreed to a pause during the cold weather. Overnight those attacks have started up again. Apparently the worst.
It was Sunday to Sunday, and it opened up, and he hit him hard last night. No, he agreed. He kept his word on that. It's a lot. 1 week is, we'll take anything because it's really, really cold over there. But it was on Sunday, and he went from Sunday to Sunday.
Are you disappointed he didn't go further or go longer?
I would like to. I want him to end the war. I spoke to him. I want him to end the war.
Good on Trump. Good on U.S. President Trump. He said, no. It was a 1 week truce. It lasted for 1 week. It expired on Sunday, and Putin honored the truce. And that truce expired, and the next day we had the big Russian attack, and it was a big attack. But Trump said it. Russia honored the truce, the energy truce. So that was a good response from Trump, a truthful response from Trump. So what else? The GOP in Congress, in the House, they published a report where they claim that the European Commission has been meddling in, I believe they said, 8 elections of European countries. Isn't that interesting, huh? One of those countries that they were allegedly meddling in the elections in was Romania, according to the U.S. House. Remember the whole TikTok Russia meddling thing, which I reported on in 2024 in dozens of videos. I talked about this story multiple times, and I reported. Big credit to Snoop.ru, which got the scoop on what really happened during those elections with Iorescu. I reported on how the whole Russia TikTok meddling thing was false. It was a fake narrative. It was actually one of the major parties in Romania that was running TikTok campaigns in order to prop up Iorescu so that they could divide the opposition voters. They can divide up the opposition voters, and this way they would secure their position in the elections. But it backfired on them, and Iorescu actually started to unify the votes in the opposition camp. Through the various opposition parties, he actually started to unify and solidify the support of the opposition sides, and Snoop.ro they broke this story, and they revealed everything that was going on, and they revealed that it was not Russian TikTok meddling, but the EU ignored all of that, and Romania, the Romanian courts and the Romanian system ignored all of that, and they redid the elections, and they eventually got their globalist guy into power, and now we have the U.S. Congress revealing that it was indeed European Commission meddling in Romania. This is what they have concluded, and not only elections in Romania, but elections in various European countries, in 8 European countries. And the way that they would do this is they would put a lot of pressure on social media, and they would suppress messaging from populist parties. They would tell social media to not promote populist candidates, and they would meddle in the elections of these countries. I'm trying to find the list of the countries, but I don't have it handy. One sec. Here we go. Ireland, France, the Netherlands, Slovakia, Moldova, Romania, to name a few. A lot of meddling going on from the European Commission, huh? A lot of meddling going on. So this is coming from the U.S. House, the Republican side of the U.S. House. From Jim Jordan, Representative Jim Jordan, the EU Commission pressured social media platforms to censor true information in the United States, targeted U.S. political content, interfered in elections across Europe. The decade-long global censorship campaign threatens free speech worldwide. So the Nobel Committee, the man who awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, who was part of the Nobel Committee, to Barack Obama, he was chair from 2009 to 2015, was an Epstein Island regular. How about that, huh? How about that? Okay. What else? We had Macron raiding the offices of X in Paris. Yeah, they actually raided X's offices because of content that violates their social media laws and regulations. And so Macron decided to go after X and raid their offices, sending a message to Musk, Pavel Durov, who is no friend of Macron's. One time he was having dinner with Macron, but since his arrest, Pavel Durov has turned against little Napoleon, and he posted on X that France is a country with no freedom. France does not have any freedom, according to Pavel Durov. And the leader of Spain, Mr. Sanchez, he said in a speech that Spain will now be putting in place very strict social media laws and regulations. We're talking about restricting social media to 16-year-olds and under. They will not be able to access various social media networks. We're talking about more monitoring, more censorship, going after disinformation on social media networks, and we're talking about a lot of fines against networks that they believe are not complying with their disinformation laws and regulations. This is what Sanchez has announced, and these are the measures that will be going into place in Spain. And we have France now. We have, I believe, Greece is also putting together these types of laws, and Spain. So we now have three or four countries. Another country that also has similar laws or regulations, or they're preparing similar laws and regulations to crack down on social media. And this is going to happen across the European Union. Eventually, you're going to get to a point where the European Commission adopts these types of regulations on free speech, on social media. And there you have it. The authoritarian The slide to authoritarianism from the European Union is taking effect. The slide into authoritarianism is in full effect. That's what I want to say. The slide into authoritarianism is in full effect. Expected. This was all expected. Take all of this crackdown on social media and disinformation, hate speech, all of these things, crackdown on X and Musk and any social media that they do not like. Open up your approved social media networks like the W social media network, which is going to be monitored and approved by the European Commission and the European globalist elite. Couple that with your digital euro and your wallet that will be issued by Christine Lagarde, and all the limits that Lagarde will place on European citizens and how they spend using their wallet, and there you go. The prison will be completed. Throw in a drone wall on the borders, the whole drone wall thing that they're putting together as well, and there you have it. The European project nears completion. So I think that's everything for today. Gaddafi's son was assassinated. He was in hiding in Libya. And he was killed by, he was in his garden and he was killed by 4 gunmen. So that happened yesterday as well. And I guess we can do a clown world, right? We can get to our clown world segment. I feel like I'm forgetting something. There's so much Epstein stuff that, well, it's almost impossible to get to everything, I guess. There was no Russian interference in the Romanian presidential elections. The only interference was from Brussels House Judiciary GOP. This is what they are finding. Non-public documents cast doubt on the allegations of Russian interference that led a Romanian court to undo the country's 2024 presidential election results. Yeah, whether you like Georgescu or you do not like Georgescu or you don't care, the fact of the matter is that Romanians, the Romanian voters, they were deceived and tricked. They were deceived and tricked. So I think I'll get to a clown world. Trump dismissed Zelensky's claims that Russia violated the energy truce. He said that the ceasefire lasted from Sunday to Sunday. Putin kept his word. It ended, and Putin hit them hard last night. It's a lot. We will take anything because it's really, really cold, Trump said. Yeah, Zelensky was saying that Russia violated the winter truce because Zelensky is peddling the fake news narrative that this was an indefinite truce, or at least a winter truce that Russia had violated. By the way, Epstein allegedly disliked Xi Jinping and the entire Chinese leadership. He described the Chinese government in a conversation with Steve Bannon as a group of peasants. Yeah, so Epstein despises Putin, despises Russia, wants a regime change in Russia. He absolutely dislikes and despises Xi Jinping in China. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Oh boy! How about Rutte at the Rada at the Ukraine Parliament yesterday, talking about how when there's a ceasefire, there are going to be coalition of the willing troops in the air, in the sea, and on land. That is what Rutte said. And one more thing that I'm forgetting. Oh, Sanchez said that that it's going to be the social media crackdown. Oh, crap, I forgot what Sanchez said. This is funny, too. What did he say? He said it's going to be a coalition of the digitally willing. That's what Sanchez actually said. Sanchez, you clown. You clown, Sanchez. Yeah, he actually threw that out there, talking about the crackdown on social media, Spain's crackdown on social media and disinformation. He talked about some of the countries that are also doing the same thing, like I said, France and Greece and all these countries. And he said what's forming in Europe now is a coalition of the digitally willing. Okay, that's a good segue into cloud world, and let's start things off with the French foreign minister, Mr. Barrot, who has given quite a lengthy interview to French media, and according to Barrot, Russia must abandon its maximalist claims because we have to acknowledge we are approaching the 4th anniversary of the so-called special operation, and it has become a catastrophic failure for Russia. In other words, Barrot is telling Russia to surrender, to capitulate. He said that France is ready to speak with Russia, but first Russia must acknowledge that the SMO has been a catastrophe and that it must capitulate to little Napoleon Macron, and then, only then, will France engage in negotiations with Russia once Putin bows down to the little emperor in Paris. Dream on, Barrot. Dream on. I got his name right, the foreign minister of France. I always forget his name. Barrot. That's the guy's name. French foreign minister Barrot. And the foreign minister of Germany has pretty much said the same thing, that Germany will not negotiate with Russia because of Russia's maximalist terms, their maximalist demands. So you have France saying no, unless Russia admits that this is a catastrophe and surrenders, then we're not going to talk to them. And then you have the German foreign ministry saying no, we will not talk to Russia as long as they have these maximalist demands. In other words, the message from Europe is more war. That's the message from Europe. And the FIFA president, Mr. Gianni Infantino, take a guess where he ended up on. Take a guess what list Infantino is on. He has been placed on the Mirotvorets list because Infantino, he is guilty of saying, you know what, in sports we shouldn't mix in politics into football, and politics and sports do not mix, and it's time for Russia and for Russian footballers to take part in FIFA matches and FIFA events. And for this statement, Infantino has been placed on the Mirotvorets for humanitarian aggression. He criticized a ban on Russian football players. He said the ban is no good. So he's the man that also gave the FIFA Peace Prize to Trump, Mr. Infantino. And finally, we have Kash Patel, who gave an interview to Fox News, to Bret Baier. And Bret Baier said, "Are you still convinced that Epstein killed himself?" And Patel said, "Yes." And Baier said, 100%. And Patel said, yes. He's sticking with that. All right, Kash Patel. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on X. We are on Rumble. We are on Telegram. And go to the Duran shop. Pick up some merch. 26% off everything in the Duran shop. I will see everybody tomorrow. Take care.